Today we're at Jiwa Cafe and look at this for a nasi goreng, 45,000 rupees. This place was recommended to me. It's in Canggu, and after I've eaten I'll tell you what it's all about. Today we're going to be talking on foreigners behaving badly, and today's theme is drugs. When I say theme, we're not looking specifically at one case, we're looking at how Indonesia deals with drug traffickers from a long time ago till now. Okay, let me enjoy and I'll get back to you. Let's see. Okay, so as I said earlier, we're at Jiwa and I'm with the owner. Tell me about yourself, sir.
My name is Juka. I was Italian. My mom's Italian, father's Chilean. Born and raised here in Bali. My whole life in Bali. We started this community project 4 years ago during COVID.
Wow. And I will say now, and I don't give compliments this easily, that nasi goreng with the satay was possibly the best nasi goreng I've ever eaten in a restaurant.
I would agree. Cynthia, our chef, she is just phenomenal. I don't eat anywhere else because of her.
Wow, wow. And what's the idea of this community? Because it's a little off the path, so people have to look for you, right?
Correct. It's right in the center, but it is really hidden. It's off a dirty little messed up road where we decided to keep it that way on purpose, so it filters out on its own. We don't have to worry about the people who don't want to be here, they just don't come. It's a place where people learn to reconnect with nature, very basically. We educate people. We have an education center. We teach about regenerative agriculture, composting, the importance of food waste, as it really isn't waste, it is actually a form of energy. We use it to run our garden. We use it to feed this cafe. Our eggs are made by our chickens in the garden. Our vegetables come from our garden. It is all fresh and it is all part of the whole community concept. We want people to understand that's where nature really thrives. Yeah.
Excellent. Wow. Okay, well, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. A pleasure.
Okay, so drugs, whether opioids, whether cocaine, whether heroin or marijuana, have been a huge blight on Europe and America for the last 40 years. Of course, Asia, Southeast Asia, is not without its drugs. I first came across the heavy penalties for drugs almost 40 years ago. When I was here, at first, I think it was 85, 86, there was a very famous case of two Australians called Barlow and Chambers. They paid the ultimate price because in Southeast Asia and a lot of countries, you will face the death penalty if you deal in drugs. Australians, Nigerians, French, so many nationalities are facing the death penalty here in Indonesia at the moment. In fact, since the pandemic, over 80 Indonesian and non-Indonesians are facing the death penalty. So whether it's a deterrent or not is debatable. Two of the most famous cases that have happened recently occurred in Bali, and that's the Bali 9 and Chapel Corey. The Bali 9 occurred almost 10 years ago, where 9 Australians were importing drugs and they were caught. 2 faced the firing squad, that's almost 10 years ago now. 1 Filipino lady, she's been released. 1 died of cancer, and the other 5, believe it or not, may be released within the next month. Good luck to them. Chapel Corey was convicted of bringing 4.2 kilograms of cannabis into Bali. She was convicted for 20 years. She served 8. Again, very lucky. You do face the death penalty if you decide to traffic drugs. And of course, it's not just drug traffickers. An Australian, Troy Smith, was found to have half an ounce of crystal meth in his hotel in Legian, Bali, this year. He faced a lot of problems just having such a small amount. through mental health issues and for other reasons, he was released early. Indonesia has changed its policy to mental health, but don't bank on that if you're going to take drugs in Indonesia. Generally, it won't work. 2 Russians and a Ukrainian were also found this year. They had a villa and they also had a lab creating meth. So they were found with a huge amount and they will face the death penalty as well as their Indonesian accomplice. Drugs also include hallucinogenics such as magic mushrooms. Up to say 15 years ago, it was quite passable to go to Kuta or Canggu and buy magic mushroom omelettes. That's not the case today. Indonesia has a zero tolerance on any drugs, and I recommend you staying away from them at all times. Of course, this isn't to say that drugs weren't and aren't prevalent. In the 90s, ecstasy was easily found in clubs in Jakarta, and I can remember at least a few times where you'd have the waft of marijuana at a house party in Jakarta. So the idea that drugs don't exist here would be nonsense. However, what I would say is stay away and keep away. One of the beauties, of course, of having zero tolerance on drugs is that generally the youth of Indonesia do not have the problems that the West does. Generally, they're not going to get hooked at an early age on heroin or hard drugs, which is great. You can walk around, you won't see anybody high on opioids in the towns or cities in Indonesia. So that's a great thing. Finally, I'd like to give a shout out to one of the football players of the Wanderers who used to play football with me in the 80s and 90s. Unfortunately, in Jakarta, he was caught with drugs. He went to jail. He was sentenced, I believe, for 5 years. Unfortunately, just before his release and deportation, he was badly beaten up in jail. So I'd like to give a shout out. All the best, John, wherever you are. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed today's Foreigners Behaving Badly. And as always, bah, bah, don't be a sheep.